In the black, crushing abyss of the Cold War, some of the most powerful weapons weren't designed to create a mushroom cloud. They were built to listen. This is the story of a machine, a mission, and the men who sailed into the heart of enemy territory, not with missiles, but with a microphone the size of a school bus. It all begins with a submarine, unlike any other in the U.S. fleet, the USS Halibut. The Halibut was a relic, a nuclear-powered submarine originally designed to launch massive Regulus cruise missiles. By the mid-1960s, however, new Polaris missiles had made the Halibut obsolete. It was a giant, powerful submarine with a cavernous missile hangar that was now completely useless. But instead of being sent to the scrapyard, it was given a second life, a purpose so secret that most of the Navy wouldn't even know what it was doing. Its massive missile hangar was gutted and transformed. Inside, engineers installed a state-of-the-art Sperry UNIVAC computer and created space for a team of intelligence specialists. This dark, humming chamber, deep inside the submarine's hull, would become known to the crew by one name: the Bat Cave. The Halibut was no longer a weapon of war in the traditional sense. It was now a spy ship, a deep-sea wraith. To make this transformation complete, powerful thrusters were added to its hull, allowing it to hover motionless, just feet above the seabed. A special lockout chamber, cleverly disguised to look like a deep submergence rescue vehicle, was grafted onto its aft deck. This was the gateway for the saturation divers, men who would live under immense pressure for weeks at a time, breathing a strange mixture of helium and oxygen that allowed them to work at depths that would otherwise be instantly fatal. Their target was a place the Soviet Union considered its own private lake, the Sea of Okhotsk, a frigid, heavily guarded body of water separating the Kamchatka Peninsula from the Siberian mainland. Somewhere on the floor of this sea, 400 feet down, lay the prize: a 5-inch wide underwater communications cable. This cable was the primary line connecting the Soviet Pacific Fleet's nuclear submarine base at Petropavlovsk with the fleet headquarters in Vladivostok. The Soviets were so confident in their security that this cable was considered untouchable. Their navy patrolled the waters constantly. The depth was prohibitive. The idea that an enemy could find the cable, let alone tamper with it, was simply unthinkable. And because of that confidence, a huge amount of the communication sent through it was completely unencrypted. It was a treasure trove of intelligence, just sitting there in the dark. In October 1971, under the command of Captain John McNish, the Halibut slipped beneath the waves and sailed straight into the lion's den. The mission was codenamed Operation Ivy Bells. Just getting to the Sea of Okhotsk was a nightmare, navigating through treacherous, heavily monitored waters. Once they arrived, the real search began. How do you find a single 5-inch cable on a vast, dark, and featureless seafloor? It should have been impossible. But U.S. intelligence had a surprisingly low-tech clue. An analyst, thinking about signs he'd seen along the Mississippi River that warned, "Cable crossing, do not anchor," theorized that the Soviets must have similar warnings to protect their own vital communications link from their own fishing trawlers. And he was right. Reconnaissance satellites had photographed these exact markers on the Siberian coast. The Halibut now had a trail to follow. With the submarine hovering silently just above the seabed, the divers exited the lockout chamber into the crushing, near-freezing blackness. They were connected to the Halibut by umbilical cords that pumped warm water into their suits, their only lifeline in the hostile deep. Their task was to find the cable and install a marvel of analog technology, a massive 20-foot-long induction tap. This incredible device was designed by Bell Labs. It was a giant clamp that fit around the cable without cutting or piercing it. Instead, it passively recorded the electromagnetic signals passing through. Inside this giant listening device was a tape recorder. There were no digital files, no satellite uplinks, just old-school reel-to-reel tapes that would have to be physically retrieved. The divers worked for hours in the dark, and finally, the first installation was a success. The Halibut returned to Pearl Harbor with the first recordings. What the NSA analysts heard when they played those tapes was pure gold. They suddenly had access to everything. Detailed Soviet fleet schedules, conversations between high-ranking naval officials, secret missile test data, and even the casual, everyday chatter of Soviet sailors. The US now had a direct, unfiltered line into the very heart of the Soviet Pacific Fleet. For the next 10 years, the mission continued in a quiet, dangerous rhythm. The Halibut, and later other specially modified submarines like the USS Park, would make the perilous journey back to the Sea of Okhotsk every few months. The divers would go down, retrieve the full tapes, and install fresh ones. The intelligence they gathered was invaluable, giving the United States an unprecedented advantage in the Cold War. It's believed that the insights from Ivy Bells played a crucial role in the strategic arms limitation talks, known as SALT. By revealing that the Soviets were just as wary of a first strike as the Americans were, it helped leaders negotiate a vital slowdown in the nuclear arms race. The operation was one of the most successful intelligence coups in U.S. history, a testament to audacious engineering and incredible human courage. But it was all about to come to a crashing halt. In January of 1980, a man named Ronald Pelton walked into the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C. Pelton was a former NSA communications specialist who had fallen on hard times and had recently filed for bankruptcy. Desperate for money, he offered to sell what he knew. And for the shockingly low price of just $35,000, he laid bare the details of one of America's most sensitive and successful espionage programs, Operation Ivy Bells. He described the special submarine, the exact location in the Sea of Okhotsk, the giant recorder, everything. Armed with this information, the KGB immediately alerted the Soviet Navy. Within months, a fleet of Soviet ships was spotted directly over the tap's location. When a U.S. submarine next returned to the site, the 20-foot recorder was gone. On the seafloor, there was only silence. The Soviets had recovered the device and, in a final act of humiliation, put it on display in a Moscow museum, a stunning trophy of a secret war fought in the deep. The decade-long window into the Soviet military mind was slammed shut. Ronald Pelton was eventually caught after a KGB defector tipped off the CIA, and he was sentenced to 3 life terms in prison. But the damage was done. An incredible intelligence advantage, bought with immense risk, ingenuity, and bravery, was sold for the price of a suburban home. Operation Ivy Bells, the analog marvel that had given America the upper hand in the Cold War's most dangerous chapter, was over. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into hidden history. See you in the next video.